Welcome back to Briggs on Books. We've been talking to people from all around the world today, and from one end of the United States to another. We had an author from India, one from Maine, Portland, Maine, actually. Now I think our next guest might be from Portland, Oregon. That's two ends of the world. Welcome to our guest, Susan Traugh, author. Welcome, Susan.
Nice to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Did I get it right, Portland, Oregon?
You did.
Yeah.
You did.
Very good. Now, you're an author. You have a young adult novel out, I think, that we're going to talk about in a couple minutes. But also you authored some great workbooks, great development workbooks for people. Tell us about that.
Yeah. I was a teacher years ago, but when I had my 3 children, they all ended up with special needs and went into special education. So I was working in their classrooms when my son's high school special ed teacher came and told me that they didn't have any, they were called transition materials, materials that helped young people transition from school into adult living, and that the Individuals with Disability in Education Act is a law that requires that transition material to be presented to all special ed students. So she asked me to go look some up, see what I could find. And as I looked around, there really wasn't anything out there for kids like mine who had mild to moderate disabilities. Either the books were written on a very babyish level, or they were so print rich that the kids couldn't read them. So I wrote the first book, the Transition2Life book, and I think you have a slide for that one.
Just popped up.
About 10 years ago, and then I thought I was done. Other teachers started contacting me and saying, "Oh, we love this. Can you write some life skills programs, things for kids who needed maybe a little bit more help?" And so I wrote the first 10 books on cleaning house, cooking, paying your bills, transportation. Thought, I'm done. This is all I can do, can't do anymore. And then teachers started contacting me again and again, and I ended up with 20, 40. I now have over 100 of these books, and all of the titles were recommended by other teachers. So I do everything from job skills, social skills for kids like with autism or on the spectrum, also books on executive functioning, making good decisions, how to be patient, how to think things through, time management, all of those young adult skills that are a little bit more difficult for these children.
I've been popping a few up on the screen as we're talking. Community resources, doing the laundry, hygiene for guys, for goodness sakes, that's a great one. Paying bills. Now, these are workbooks?
Yeah, they're written on a 3rd, 4th grade level, but they're geared toward the teenager and young adult population. And each one has just a short lesson on the basics. This is how you wash your hair. This is how you see, you check if your hair is dirty. I give them a little calendar to do so that they can see if their hair is clean, if it starts to get iffy, if now it's really greasy. And as they take that calendar and look at it, they start to develop a schedule so they know, I need to wash my hair every day, or I need to wash my hair every 3 days. We kind of empower them with the skills they need to be able to do things that maybe you and I take for granted.
It's interesting you said this is a required curriculum, and there was no curriculum out there, and you were able to develop it. Is this being used across the country or around the state?
It's being used around the world, actually. I've been really lucky that a lot of teachers, I have a lot of loyal followers who do like these books, and they provide a niche that some of the other curriculum doesn't. A lot of it is much more sophisticated, also a lot more expensive than mine is. But, while mine's own old school, pencil and paper kind of things. A lot of the teachers like those for their kids because it makes it more accessible to kids who may get distracted on computers or need something simple that they can grab a hold of and feel successful in this lesson.
Right. Now, these are kind of things teachers aren't really trained to teach, so this is a nice addition to what they already have to teach.
It is, and I'm also now, I've just recently launched my own professional development series for teachers so that they can get the professional development credits that they need in order to teach this, because I just finished talking to a special ed advocate before I came on the air with you, and she was talking about, since COVID, how many more parents are beginning to sue the districts because their kids aren't coming out of high school with the life skills they need to function in the world today.
Yes. Yeah, that's for sure. Anything else on this? I want to get to that young adult novel as well.
No, we can move on because I kind of, my children's lives have dabbled across the board in special needs, mental health, and voices that aren't normally heard from or spoken to.
Right, that is wonderful. Now, were you a teacher or you were helping the classroom? How did all this come about?
I was originally a teacher and taught in inner city Los Angeles. And when my son was a toddler, he fell from our second story, fractured his skull, and became traumatically brain injured. They said at the time that he would never walk, talk, or function normally. So I quit my job to make sure that that didn't happen. A couple years later, my daughter was born, eventually diagnosed with autism. And then my youngest was a GATE student and a real popular, successful student until she became a middle schooler. And then bipolar disorder got a hold of her, and mental illness kind of tore her life apart. So because all three of my kids were impacted the way they were, I quit my teaching job. I started volunteering in all of their classrooms. And, along the way, as I said, teachers started asking me for curriculum. I had my master's degree in curriculum development,
Nice.
So it was just a natural fit.
That's great. And look, you're leaving a great legacy for the next generation as well. Then at some point you decided to become a novelist. I'm going to pop this graphic up because it's beautiful. Purple Dragonfly Book Award. Tell us about the Edge of Brilliance.
When bipolar got my daughter, it got her bad. And she was suicidal very often. She was totally out of control. All the things that mental illness can do to people. And it got to the point where we needed to put her in a residential facility. It was maybe one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, but we felt like it was the only way to save her life. And I lost control of being able to take care of my daughter. So, and at this time, even in the residential facility, they weren't sure if my daughter was going to make it. Her mental illness was so severe that we didn't know if she'd come back to us or not. So this book, my way of affecting the universe, I wrote in this book what I wanted to happen. I also wrote this book to help people who may not be plagued with mental illness in their family to understand what happens and how I was a very normal, functioning, overachieving family that suddenly we went off the rails. And I wanted to be able to share this story and share specifically how I believe that my daughter and others like her are really heroes. In this story, Amy, the protagonist, doesn't want to face her mental illness. She doesn't want to take her meds, doesn't want therapy, believes that if she wishes it away, it'll go away. And with dire consequences for herself and everyone around her. In this psychiatric facility that she is committed to, she starts to take the steps she needs to make herself whole again, and in the process finds the hero within herself. And that's a hero that I believe lives in all of these kids. We just need to help them find it. And as evidence of that, my daughter today just got accepted to the university of her choice. She is a speaker for NAMI, the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill, and is on the dean's list, and doing all these wonderful things again as she goes out to help other young people who are suffering what she went through.
Who needs to read this book? I ask this to every author. I mean, I'm going to read it. I'm moved by the story and the struggle, but who should read this book?
While it's a YA book, I would suggest this book for anyone who is touched by mental illness, who might not understand how their niece or the next door neighbor or their son or daughter's friend is behaving. This will give you an insight on some of the things that are going on. And it's not just my story, but it's also heavily researched to make sure that this information that I'm giving you is really real and accurate. I was really pleased. I got a fan letter from a girl who was also hospitalized and was trying to commit suicide and did not want anyone to help her, that wrote back to me and said, "You've changed my life. If Amy can do it, then I can do it." So it's also for people who need some hope. It's above all a hopeful book.
Now, a lot of kids are cruel, and kids, there are bullies out there. You think if young people read this, there'd be a better understanding that people could maybe be nicer to each other and understand one another more?
Absolutely, and I have asked a few teachers, and they've wanted to put the book in the classroom. It is a raw book, so some of the schools are hesitant to do that. But on my website is also a teacher's guide of what to do about when you read this book in order to have the kinds of conversations you're talking about bullying and about people being different and about acceptance of all of our maladies.
Sounds like it could be a classroom book with the teacher's guide, going along with it. I know when I was even in high school, we'd read a book aloud every semester, and the whole class would share and talk about it. Sounds like it's an amazing book for that.
Thank you.
I know we're getting almost out of time. They're giving me the cutoff signal, but I could talk to you all day, Susan. You're fascinating. Well, you've been through so much, and you just have a background that few people have, and makes you very qualified to put out those teaching materials and to write the book. Anything else you want our viewers to know before we're out of time?
No, they can. I think you've got my website there. They can contact me if they have any questions, and I will be sure to get back to them. But I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity.
My pleasure.
I'm very grateful, and I've seen some of your other interviews too, and I really appreciate the wonderful job you're doing.
Well, you're very inspirational. I'm just going to try to say the website. Why don't you say it? Transitions2Life Daily Living Skills.com?
Yep, that's it.
Got it first time through. It's so far away. And I know we're out of time and they're signaling me, but what will people find there?
All the workbooks, also free videos, and I have a lot of free material. I believe in being able to give away as much as I can. So if you need some sources for your kid, I've got one on how not to cuss and all kinds of fun things.
All kinds of things like that. Susan Traugh, I'm inspired by what you do. You're an incredible person. I want you to come back. We'll talk more. Come back again and again.
Thank you.
And I'm going to leave the website up for a few moments. Our viewers can copy it down. And we will be back with more Briggs on Books right after this.